Good morning, Year 3. We're now on Wednesday's English lesson. So today we're going to start planning our story to do with trolls. We're going to look at the plot of a warning story just so you can see what needs to be in the different sections. And then we're going to look at some ideas that you can use. And then you're going to plan the different sections. We're going to start writing it towards the end of the week. So if you just look at my screen now, we can go through the plan. Okay, so like I said, we are planning our warning story today. So I'm going to show you what happens in the troll story, and I'm going to show you in every warning story there's the same structure to it, and you just need to follow it. So it doesn't matter what your idea is, as long as you stick to this structure, it will be a warning story. So in a warning story, you start with a group of characters that are warned not to do something. So in the troll story that we read, the trolls were hiding from people in the caves, and they were told they shouldn't go out into daylight because they would be turned into stone. So that's the beginning section. And then usually two main characters are introduced and the setting is described. So in the troll story, it's a stormy night and we're introduced to Skess and Landra, who go to the cliffs by the beach. The next part of the story, usually the main characters see someone or something in danger in the setting they're in, so in the place they're in. So in the troll story, Skess sees a ship in trouble in the sea, and they decide to go and rescue the ship. So we've got the beginning, the build-up, and the problem. The next section, usually the main characters save the people that are in trouble. So in the troll story, Skess and Landra save the crew and the ship by pulling it back to shore. So that's your resolution. And then usually in the end, terrible things will happen to the main characters because they ignored the warning. This explains the feature in the landscape, basically meaning that we saw pictures, didn't we, that in Iceland, people believe that the different rock formations are trolls that have been turned into stone. So in the ending of the troll story, suddenly morning arrives and the sunlight comes out and the trolls turn into stone, and this explains the stone pillars that you can see on the beaches in Iceland. Now, I want you to think about writing a new version of the story. So it's still going to include trolls. It's still going to be based in Iceland, but I want you to think of a different idea. So it's not that a ship's in trouble and it's not that the daylight comes and that they turn into stone. I want you to change those parts. So the stone trolls could be described as a warning story. The trolls were in hiding from people and they're warned not to go outside in daylight as they will turn to stone, and they ignore this warning. So we need to think of a new warning and a new problem. So here are some ideas, but I'm happy for you to come up with some of your own. You don't have to use these, but these are just given to you for a bit of help. So here's a picture of a volcano in Iceland. There's lots of volcanoes in Iceland. There are other interesting things on the land that you could pretend were once trolls that tried to help people, but were caught out when the sun came up. Here are some new story ideas. So it could be idea one, that this volcano is a troll. So this could have once been a troll who was furious when the sun came up. So maybe the troll was trying to save some walkers lost in the mountains, and then the sun came up and turned the troll into this angry volcano that erupts. Idea two could be the cave. So this is a cave in Iceland. This could have once been a shocked troll caught with their mouth open when the sun rose. So this could be the troll's mouth wide open in shock. So maybe the troll was trying to save some people walking near the edge of a cliff, and then the sunlight came up and the troll was so shocked because he didn't realise the sun was coming up that he got turned into this cave, and the opening of the cave is his mouth. Idea three could be a waterfall. So here's some waterfalls here. This could be the tears of a very sad troll caught as the sun came up. So maybe the troll was trying to save people that were swimming in the river, and then the sun came up after he'd saved them, and then he got turned into a waterfall. And this is his face, and this is his tears coming down. And the fourth idea could be this. So the tallest rock on the cliffs here, this could have been a very helpful king of the trolls who was rooted to the ground when the sun rose. So basically meaning this could have been the king of the trolls that got stuck to the ground when the sun rose. The king could have been acting as a lookout, making sure that all the other trolls were safe. It's really up to you. You can honestly think of your own ideas. It doesn't have to be this. But it needs to be trolls. It needs to be that someone is in trouble and they go and help them, and then the sun rises and then they get turned into something different. So it could be the waterfall, it could be the cave, it could be the volcano, it could be the cliffs of the mountains. So here is the underlying plot pattern again, but with my idea for my story. So you're not going to have the same idea as me. You're not going to have my story. You will need to create your own one. So the plot pattern is the group of characters are warned not to do something. So I've decided that trolls are hiding deep in the forest away from people. They're warned not to be out in the rain because they will turn into tall trees. So you need to think, what is the warning going to be? What can the trolls not go out? When can the trolls not go out? When it's raining, when the sun comes up, when it's nighttime, whatever, you can change that. And what will happen to them if they do go out? So in the original story, it was that the trolls would turn into stone. Maybe it's that they'll turn into a volcano. Maybe it's they'll turn into a cave. I've decided that my trolls are going to turn into tall trees if they get caught in the rain. So you need to think of your warning and where your trolls are hiding. The second section is the two main characters are introduced and a setting is described. So I've decided that it's a summer's day. And that makes sense because the trolls would go out if it was a summer's day, wouldn't they? Because it's unlikely it's going to rain and that's what they need to keep away from. And a bit like in the story that we read, the trolls were out at night time because they weren't meant to be out in the daytime. And I've named my characters as Fir and Oak. So those are the names of my two trolls. You can call your trolls whatever. It needs to be two trolls though. And they go out for a walk in the forest and they're looking for food. That's what they're doing. So you need to think about where they are, what they're doing, and the names of the two trolls. The next section, which is the problem, the main characters see someone or something in danger in that setting. So I've decided that Fir sees children climbing trees and one is stuck. Oak and Fir decide to climb the tree to get the children down and save them. In the original story, Skess sees a ship in trouble at sea. They decide to go and rescue the ship. Now, in the ideas that I gave you, again, you don't have to use these, we had that there was some people in the river and they were swimming and they were in trouble. They started to drown, so the trolls saved them. We had that the trolls were saving some people walking near the edge of a cliff that were about to fall down a cliff. We had that the troll was trying to save some walkers that were lost on the mountain. It can be honestly anything that you decide. Then the resolution is the main characters actually save them. So how do they save the people that are in trouble? Skess and Andra save the crew and the ship, don't they? And then the last thing, terrible things happen to the main characters because they ignored the warning. And this explains the feature of the landscape. So suddenly there is a crack of thunder and it starts to rain. Fir and Oak turned into tall trees. That's what I've decided. In the original story, morning arrived and the trolls turned to stone. This explains the stone pillars on the beach. So I want you to plan your story now, please. I'll put this up on to right so you can have a look at the structure.